Here's one where it's slightly different, but it has a different identity in it. Jake, this is my pre-calc class.
Oh, hi.
Do you want to teach them on March 2nd?
Sure.
Do you guys want him on March 2nd?
Yeah, he's good.
It's a Monday. This time.
Oh, yeah.
1 o'clock. All right.
Okay, nice meeting y'all. See you then.
I guess you guys already know him, right?
Some of it, yeah.
Huh? Now you will know him. Okay, so I'm not going to put out the steps. I'm just going to go through it quickly, so without the steps in place. Step 1, as you recall, was to take this thing and rewrite it as sines and cosines so you can see what's going on. All I did here is I pulled out the square. So remember the little 2 that was in the corners? I pulled them out. So that's all pulled out. Cosine of minus x is the same thing as cosine x. I'm speeding up a little bit here. So I'm going through the steps that I did. I did the other one with the details. Now I'm speeding through a little bit quicker. So this thing here, just like the previous problem, turns out to be this messy looking guy plus 1. Messy looking guy, well, cosine at minus x is cosine x. Sine at minus, that's where that came from. And when I square it, I can ignore the negative sign, just like it's almost a copycat of the previous problem. Now I have cotangent x squared plus 1 instead of tangent squared plus 1. It's almost like I knew your question. I knew you were going to ask that question. Where did that come from? Because minus sine x squared is really sine squared, which is the 2 back in the corner. So that's where that piece came from here in the bottom. That's why that minus sign disappeared. In case anybody was going to ask me that. I knew you were going to ask me that, so I answered it before you asked me. Start with most famous. Last time I divided by cosine squared. This time I'm going to divide by sine squared. Why would I do that? Because I know those 4 red things that I showed you earlier, cold. I don't need it tattooed. It's been tattooed, it's been branded in. So I know them cold, and I know that I can already see 3 chess moves ahead. I already know that I got a cotangent squared. I already know that cotangent is cosine over sine. So that tells me that I'm supposed to go to most famous and divide by sine. So I do that. I'm going to divide it through by sine squared on most famous, and I get the not so famous 1 plus cotangent squared x is equal to cosecant squared x. Don't mean to hurt the feelings of that identity, but it's not as famous as cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1. But that's the same thing that I have up there. Cotangent squared x plus 1 is the same thing as 1 plus cotangent. It's just one is swapped for the other, right? Do you agree that that black cotangent squared x plus 1 is the same thing as the blue 1 plus cotangent squared x? But from the not so famous second identity, we have that's supposed to be cosecant squared x. So I end up that my end answer is cosecant squared x, and then I go to the Webassign list, and there it is. Good? The previous question was, I think, tan squared, slightly different, right? Okay, questions? I call this a methods class. You just have so many procedures and things you have to remember. Students always say that they find Calc 1 easier, and then Calc 2, you need all the stuff from pre-calc again. So if you didn't like pre-calc, you don't really like Calc 2 because it's pre-calc ramped up. But you'll like pre-calc because you had it together with we had it like a family, right? Family pre-calc.